So you've been through the training, the introduction, and you've downloaded the access to the spreadsheet where you're going to be tracking your numbers. So let's get more deep into how to track those messages. And bear in mind that this is all happening after the 6 marketing strategies that you're doing, we hope. And if you're not, then do sign up for our Clinic Boost marketing package so that you're working on those, all those marketing methods to bring new patients in. Because the first thing you need to be doing when you're even starting up a new clinic is creating a flow of patients that you can then, what we call, create, value from money from, by enticing those patients to have treatment. And then they're going on to refer other patients to others. And then you optimize that procedure. You optimize the flow and you optimize the patient journey. And we're in the optimization section here, the right beginning of it. It's called tracking the messages, okay? Right at the beginning of our very, very simple Clinic Boost 5-stage new patient experience. And by messages, we mean anything that comes from a new potential patient that is written, okay? So long past, I guess, are the days when you got letters from patients by post. So usually it's a form that was filled in on your website or a domain that you own. It could be an email or a message on a social messaging app like Messenger, WhatsApp, WeChat, Viber, or Skype, any of the messaging apps that you may choose. It could even be a chat bot on your own website. It could be an SMS message, and it can also be a text comment on a post on your website or on a social post or somewhere. Anything that is written communication first time from a potential patient. And why do we separate them here from telephone calls? Because basically they are both types of incoming leads. This is because after our work over the years with lots and lots of clinics, our data shows, so far at least, that patients who message and patients who message do not convert as quickly to consultations as those who call. Usually when they make a call to you, they are serious. They're not price shopping. They're serious. They've picked you out from the few dental clinics and options out there, and they're looking to choose you. So we separate that. And of course, every patient that gets that messages us, we want to move on to a call so that we can determine more about their needs, create a better relationship with them, and determine also if they are a good fit for us and we are a good fit for them, which is sometimes quite hard to do through messaging, as you may have experienced before. That's why we separate them, okay? Who is tracking these new patient messages? Now, it depends on the size of your clinic. In very small clinics, it could be you yourself, the main doctor or clinic owner. It can be an appointed clinic manager. That's our preferred method. Or it could be the administrational team member. That means a receptionist or nurse or someone who's doing, multitasking another job. Ideally, you have someone separate, for this. Now, how and where to track them? This is the best way. This is really the best way. After all the softwares and systems we've seen in the world, track them as they happen. If I'm writing an answer to a patient on WhatsApp or to an SMS, I just mark it down on a piece of paper like this. I just mark it down. Get my piece of paper out, get my pen, mark down one new patient message, okay? It's the same by the computer. It's the same for all my staff or all staff that could be in a clinic. And all you need to do then at the end of the day with your appointed person is go and pick up the papers. Really, really easy. Very easy. It's low tech. It's not going to go wrong if the internet fails or whatever. And it's quite motivating for the staff to actually see their progress as the day goes on. And also you can very quickly realize if that staff member is underworked or overworked, and also the amount of leads that lead flow that you actually have, which means, of course, is a question, do I need to increase that flow or just optimize that flow? And then, of course, many clinics will say there's another way. We already have a CRM, or I like to call it a PRM, patient relationship managing software, that looks at how many patient messages have been done per day. So if you do have a software and you're able to do it, like I have here, this is an example from a software we use called HubSpot. You can see exactly how many emails have been sent out per day to new patients if you tag them rightly. But I do prefer, even with larger clinics, Wave have 6 or, huge clinics that have a lot of admin members to work with. Even I've seen the paper one work still a lot better. And what they can do also, if you're not on location with your staff each day, you can get them to simply take a photograph of these numbers, or they can write you a message through a messaging app, so that you the appointed person can then go on to put it into the tracking sheet. The tracking sheet we've already covered in the previous section. So you've got access to this. This is shared with our team, and it's shared with your team, and you're adding numbers here. And the key is to do it every single day. Why every day? Because we can immediately see if something's going wrong. And we can also create accountability for those people, so they really do know that how many messages they're getting through each day and how many are expected to get through. And of course, the basic best practice is you need to be replying as soon as possible to new patient messages. Even if they're not as serious as calls, they're still important to do your best job, okay? So write them there. And what are we trying to get here? My face is in the way. Let's see if I can move it up a bit. Second, there we go. That's better, isn't it? Right. So we're simply looking at the number of new patient messages and calls. This is what we're trying to achieve here, and to see if it's too low. If it's too low, we're going to be looking to do a marketing option to increase the number of messages and ideally calls. Then the second thing we're looking at here is the conversion to calls healthy. Okay, is it a healthy number? Now, when you get on the strategy call with my team, we will tell you what is the typical benchmark for typical clinics that are not in the Clinic Boost method, and the typical ratio for clinics that are in the Clinic Boost method. And usually, once clinics start working with us, we're able to bring that up by around 30%. That's very typical. It's an average number. It could be more, it could be a little less, but most of the times we realize there's much improvement that can be done by moving patients from messages into calls. Okay. And also the third thing here, I'd like to mention that the reason for doing this is actually to set targets for the week. So this clinic in particular, this is a real clinic example. They are typically having around 70 messages per week. And we were looking at a way to see if we could help them get it up to 80 messages per week. Because of course, if we can get it to 80 messages instead of 70, the conversion to calls would be higher. Or not the conversion, but the number of calls would be higher. And you can see from this example as well that we have 46 calls being made, and the conversion point between leads to calls is 64, which is actually much healthier than what we expected them to get here. So that means that the tactic which we implemented to get more patients from leads to calls actually worked. So that's what we're aiming for here. And I don't want to confuse you or your staff, but it's nice to actually know what the end goal is of actually tracking this message, and why. If you ever have to explain why are we doing it, it's simply because we're trying to get more patients into calls, more patients from calls to consultations, and more patients from consultations into treatments, and treatments into referring patients. That's the whole game we're playing here, guys. Okay, right. So let's get on to our next section, which is tracking new patient calls.